Hello all, my name is Kevin Lynch and I'm going to talk about how important innovation is for Canadian growth. And if that sounds like something new, think about it. The Stone Age didn't end because they ran out of rocks. It was innovation, and innovation has driven most of the changes, both at the company level and at the aggregate level that we've seen throughout. The issue for us is, are we going to be part of the next wave here in Canada? And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. So my talk is Innovation is the Future Engine of Growth, and I really want to start with a focus on the context. In many ways, when you think about policy, policy is all about context. And the main theme I would leave with you here is that global trends are fundamentally changing our world. And the status quo in a world that's changing and churning is not a strategy for future success. So if you look at the changes we're looking at, globalization 3.0, a hyper-connected world, technology 2.5, and you'll hear about that from our various presenters, energy 2.0, a revolution in demand, supply, and geopolitics, demographics changing everything except in this room, global governance totally changing the world, and a global economy that's probably not as vibrant as could be. That's our context. And I think if you think about that context, the solution to a number of those issues is innovation. We have to do things differently. Whether it's in the healthcare field or anywhere else, that's got to drive us. So that's kind of thought one if you look through the various issues that we're facing. Now, the thought two, and I've got a series of Walrus Talks here, thoughts here, is that technology is approaching an inflection point and will spawn disruptive innovations. And disruption meets all of Shelley's kind of characteristics. It changes things, but in changing, things fall behind and things kind of rise up. The issue for us is, are we going to be at the leading edge of that disruption? So three parts to this. One is, what are the disruptive technologies? And they're across everything, the Internet of Things, kind of energy storage, mobile internet, cloud technology, so huge changes. The one that we don't think about as much, though, is the pace of change. So think about it. Something is mature if it reaches 50 million users. The phone took 75 years, radio took 38 years, TV 13 years, internet 4 years, Facebook 3.5. Angry Birds took 35 days. And the question is, do we know how to manage for a 35-day technology cycle? How do we handle it? How does public policy handle it? How does corporate governance handle it? How does the financial sector handle it? And it may not be 35 days for each, but it's a heck of a lot faster than we ever imagined in our systems. So we have to make sure that we actually have support systems that can move as quickly as the pace of technological change. And that poses, in many ways, the disruptive question for us. Do we, in Canada, Nova Scotia, across the country, have the technology capacity, management skills, and culture to be disruptors and early adapters, or are we going to be amongst the disrupted and the late followers? And there is a huge difference in societal and economic outcomes, whether you're in the first group or the second. And we've got to make sure that we know what it takes to get in the first group. My thought three is that in changing times, there's nothing to fear about change except the fear of change itself. And I think the real risk is the status quo. And yet, paradoxically, in times of change, you hold on to the one thing that's the worst thing to do, which is to try and stay in the status quo when the world is changing around you. And so how do we collectively try and actually create the environment for change in changing times? And it's not as clear as it looks. Now, if you accept that innovation is key to our success economically, societally, the new normal suggests that the innovation engine is what drives economies. And if that's the case, Canada needs a tune-up. And so let me give you just three statistics here to run through. If you look at Canada, Canada is ranked 26th in the world for the capacity of innovation in our private sector. That's not in the top ranks, and that's not good. Second column looks at Canadian business spending on research and development. We're 22nd, behind countries you can't find on a map. Again, we're not going to be winners, notwithstanding all the wonderful entrepreneurs we have here in the panel in the room, unless as a country we actually spend more. And lastly, the consequence of that is that Canadian business productivity is 17th. and we're 32% below the United States. And that's not the way we're going to build successful companies and jobs and growth in this country. And the solution is innovation. It's a thing that collapses all three into success. So the next thought is that beware of extrapolations, averages, and time frames. What happens in innovation growth is that it's explosive. And so what I want to show you on the left, this is Shanghai. Same picture of the city from the same spot 26 years. So this is looking across to Pudong, 1987, from the same building. That's looking across 26 years later. Shanghai today is about 80% the size of Canada, both in terms of population and close in GDP. We're not necessarily going to build a Shanghai here in Halifax, but the point is it's not linear if you can create innovation success. It actually has an exponential and explosive impact. The other point, which Jeff Moore, who's one of the leaders of innovation in the Valley, is that when we look at growth, it's great to start a new company, but you want it to grow, and you want it to be a fast-growing, medium-sized company, and then a fast-growing big company. And so we've got to worry about the whole life cycle of the firms that we start up. And again, we have a bit of a focus just on the start. My second last thought is that we're desperately seeking in Canada innovation superclusters. And that's where there is a problem. An incubator in every backyard is not going to be our solution. We've got to actually have critical mass density concentrations. And I think our ecosystem problem is complacency. And this is a danger in Canada. It's a danger in any society where folks are relatively well off, things go pretty darn well, and therefore why change dramatically? But innovation doesn't give you the chance. If we don't do the innovation, somebody else is going to do it. This is not going to run on Nova Scotia or Canada time. It's going to run on global time. The reality for us is we have extraordinary capacity in this country. What we have is ecosystem silos. We're too broken up. We don't actually take all our ingredients and put them together. I've said elsewhere that we have the ingredients but not the recipe for success at the scale and innovation that we need. And the opportunity is super connectivity. How do we put the things together? How do we network our research capacity, not just kind of within universities, but across, not just in a region, but elsewhere? How do we bring all the capital and other things together so we get not just one success, but we get 400 and 500 that actually act with each other? And my last thought goes to the issue of brands. Because in this world, think about it, Silicon Valley is a brand. People think about it. Capital goes there. People go there. Kind of entrepreneurs go there. It's a brand. And we can have the best possible capacity here, but if we don't have the brand as well, whether it's Halifax, Toronto, you name it across the country, we're going to have a problem. So what is our strong brand? So Canada ranks very strongly in all the surveys we do, government, private sector. Our brand is this. We're nice. And nice is a wonderful thing to be, but it doesn't get you venture capital. It doesn't get you an exit. It doesn't do any of those things. And the only thing worse than actually having our main brand being nice is we're happy with our main brand only being nice. So I'll leave you with the thought, a Walrus thought is, why can't we go for nice plus? And actually make it a very Canadian one, and actually expand our brand promise to talent, because we have extraordinary talent in this country. A knowledge economy, because we are one. Innovation clusters, we have 4 in the top 25. Problem is we have none in the top 15, and that's the exponential and disproportionate. And lastly, we have a strong financial system that can raise the capital and has the capital. And for us, it really is time to rebrand Canada, because it's not enough just to have the ingredients. We've got to put the ingredients together in a way that we really have an extraordinary innovation culture and dynamism here in this country. Thank you very much.